Hi, everyone. My name is Steve Shitera, and I'm a journalist by training. And today we are here to talk the repercussions or the impact the technology, the digital technology has had in the mass media. So much has changed within a very short time. And it's something that I'm glad to share with you today. And I'll not be doing it alone. I'll be doing it with my colleague who will introduce herself. I think that is the very best way to understand who we are talking about.
Okay, thank you, Steve, and good morning, everybody. My name is Wanjiko, also a journalist and a communicator by training. And yes, we'll be going through the impact of digital, the digital aspects and digital media on journalists today. Thank you.
We will is as far as media is concerned, and I will share. I'll share some slides here, which will be able to assist us understand really what kind of digital technology we are talking about and how it has changed the industry. Of course, the impact of digital technology on mass media, past, present, and of course in the future, because that is where we are headed from here. And there you go. The changing technology indeed has influenced journalism in 4 major areas, and this is one, how journalists do their work as far as gathering information is concerned, news gathering, writing. The manner of writing has also changed from, you remember, pen to paper. Now journalists are using their phones, they are using laptops, they are using digital technology, as we have really put it. The content of news. Actually, journalists nowadays are becoming creative rather than attending a press conference and getting what he has said. You really need to contextualize what has been said in a press conference in relation to the mass. To in as far as news assignments, writing, editing, so much has changed. The relationship between or among news organizations, jobs, and to the public has really changed. And I think the 4 areas will be able to assist us in understanding how much has changed in as far as the industry journalism is concerned. And we say even though the World Wide Web, internet, digital video are the most common examples of technologies that are transforming journalism, the history of journalism is in many ways defined by technological changes. We talked of the impact of technology in we go by, because journalism is a very old profession. It's very old because writing started a long time ago, even during the time of writing the Bible. So much more, many people have been going through writing, and that is journalism. Technological advances have been largely linked to the ability to disseminate information since the invention of writing. That is what I've just said. From monks copying Bibles by hand, the progress headed towards the invention of the printing press, which was a massive paradigm shift and cascading the repercussions on many aspects of day-to-day life. Later, there emerged broadcast media, for example, the radio and television, and finally the internet, which has really changed how we receive or disseminate information, receiving as audience and disseminating as journalists. The in as far as news consumption is concerned. Citizen journalism, that is where we want to focus from that will be forming a large area in as far as internet and the web is concerned. And citizen journalism, it includes people who write and spread information without the support or motivation from an organized media. And as we speak now in Kenya, we have a whole lot of such whereby getting information involves people who are not trained, involves people who are not employed by any organized media house. By use of your Facebook account, you can post what you can see on the road. And that is why we say it includes people who write and spread information without support or motivation from an organized media outlet. Whatever their chosen medium, it can be Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. It has its roots in photocopied newsletters, which were traditionally a niche and a solitary reporter. So in the current age, it is the trend because anytime you pick your phone up, you want to see what is happening on Facebook, you want to see what is happening on Instagram or Twitter. And to a much extent, these people have sort of tried and changed the landscape of news production, whereby some of the mainstream media really try to follow what is happening outside there through their accounts. So many people are using their accounts to disseminate information. Some might not be verified because to some extent, some people have published information that has not been proven right when mainstream media has tried to follow up what is happening Mombasa Road, or a change in party leadership like it has been happening. So you see someone tries to write that let's say at the moment we are having wrangles in Ford, Kenya. So some people, I saw an article on a Facebook yesterday that also the ANC, Amani National Party leader, is in trouble, and that the party belongs to someone else. Such is what we call an unverified news. So as a media house, you can try and find out, is it true? But someone has published on his own account that it is happening or it has happened, whereas it has not been verified. What is happening in Ford, Kenya, it's true, but someone wants to use the same platform to try and perpetrate some sort of agenda that probably will try and divert people from what is happening. It ends up not being true at all. You have seen some letters circulating on social media signed by some people, which end up not being true, but they are used to drive a certain agenda. And that is what we are calling citizen journalism. People who are not employed by anyone. Some blogs might be sponsored, but some are not, and end up using their accounts to perpetrate or disseminate information that might not be true, or if it has some truth in it, to propel a certain agenda. So the term citizen journalist and the term blogger, blogger is an abbreviation of a web blogger, on their own. So it might not be organized, but at the end of the day, they are running the business on their own. So the birth of a traditional journalism, even as we talk of journalism where we are and where we are going, we really need to look where we came from. So it is very important to understand where journalism or mass media came from. And here we are. People felt the need to share information and hold power to account. And this is indeed all what journalism is. People felt the need to share information and hold power to account. And this is indeed all what journalism is. Simple texts were used to inform citizens of certain events, although their circulation was not in large numbers, as they were handwritten. Technology slowly broke down the barriers of cost and complexity. You can imagine there were no photocopies. So when you write, let's say there will be a meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m., you really needed to write so many pieces of information. Unlike today, when you can just write one and photocopy everything, previously it was really a hard time to communicate in the past. So technology slowly broke down the barriers of cost and complexity to allow large distribution. Relatively cheap newspapers to emerge and give birth to journalism in form of cheap and plentiful newspapers. So that is how journalism began, just from a mere point of writing to the aid of technology, whereby cheap newspapers emerged and gave birth to journalism. Elitists and hugely expensive luxury into printed press as we know it today. So it came from there where you used to handwrite, it moved to typewriting, and advanced as we are, now we are using our laptops to write. Up to that point, I think we have had an introduction of what technology is to mass media, citizen journalism, and then where journalism came from. We'll allow Wanjiko to go through what we have put across, and if there is any point of clarification, then she can give her account before we proceed.
Okay, thank you, Steve. I think, yes, you've put it very well that, people felt the need to share information, and the need for, people in the societies and communities to know what was happening and be able to hold somebody accountable for it. Because what we then see nowadays is the media sets the agenda for what we talk about. So you'll hear comments, if somebody says something or posts something, and they're asked, where did you hear it? No, I saw it on the news on this and this channel, because they do, people do hold them in that regard, that if I see something on the news, then I take it to be true. Unfortunately, what has been happening, though, even with the advancement of this technology, is that just because somebody has a phone in their hand, then they feel maybe the need to just post without verifying. And we've seen some of those cases coming up, just posting without verifying, without sources, and you spoke about it, without researching, so that when we go back and try and research and find sources for this story and find the causes of what happened, it turns out that, it wasn't really true. And that's somewhere where, and I think you'll talk about this later, where the advantages and disadvantages of this digital advancement and what it is causing in the society. So I think it's important for people to know the history and where we've come from, to know where we are and why it is that information is shared in a certain way. Why do we verify? Why do we ask? In most cases, for both sides of the story, why do we need witnesses? Why do we need comments and credible comments from a credible person who is actually involved or can speak on behalf of that story, that organization, that party? So it's important when we come back to the history to understand, so that at the end of it all, and I'll just come back to this first statement, you need to hold power to account, so that if I say no, but I interviewed Steven and he said this, there can be a record and we can come back and quote you and be able to hold you to account for what it is that you put out, what it is that you post, what it is that you say. Yeah.
Thank you, Wanjiko. We'll proceed with the technological advancement. And indeed, we have seen that technology has proven to be self-facilitating inspiration for innovation. And the emergence of one invention tends to lead to an increasing speed in development of that idea. For example, the invention of the alphabet and the invention of the printing press are separated by 3,000 years, meaning that it took 30 centuries from developing texts to being able to mass produce copies of texts. However, from the invention of the printing press to the existence of mobile, wireless internet-enabled devices that allow us to search the world's information via Google, there is only 500 years. So the start of this sequence of invention leading to these devices was the invention of the telegraph and ultimately the telephone network. And as journalists, I think when I started to practice 2012, but I had an interest in journalism as young as 2 years, and I could try and follow up how these people could move around, give out information, and telegraph and telephone played a very big role for journalists, because now you remember before the invention of a mobile telephone, we used to have the landlines and the telegram writing. So a correspondent, let's say in Kakamega, would have a reverse call from the station, so that he or she can narrate the story how it happened. The bureau headquarters were to try and bring out the story from a telephone conversation. So that is where journalism started from, and that is why you can see them putting it down that it took 3,000 years between the invention of the alphabet and the invention of the printing press, but 500 years between they say, however, from the invention of the printing press to the existence of a mobile wireless internet-enabled device that allow us to search the web via Google, there's only 500 years. So the technology is really moving fast, and the start of this sequence of invention leading to these devices. So you can imagine between, let's say, 1998, when we first had our first mobile phone to now, a difference of around 2 decades or a decade and a half, so much has changed because now we are in the smartphone era. And all these had huge repercussions, not only on journalism, but to every aspect of the society. For the first time ever, information could travel quicker than humans with the invention of a telephone and telegraph. Information could travel quicker than humans. Telegraph enabled reporters to write international stories the day they happened, the same day. You remember when I joined the industry, we used to record on tape. And the fastest means was to give the tape either at the airport so that it could run the same day. But now you see with the telegraph and telephone, reporters write international stories the same day. Whereas before, the first anyone would know of it will be when the first ship docked from that country. So it is the ship that will come with information, or the flight, let's say a flight from America to Kenya, that will take around 24 hours at most. So those are 2 days for you to get a story from America, but now things have changed. Telephones allowed reporters to phone stories in their location, speeding up the publishing process. I talked about this. So stories could get into print on the day's edition. So at this era of telegraph and telephone, these people were so happy that so much has changed, that with a phone call, your story is in Nairobi the same day from let's say Budalangi, where the floods are ravaging families there. Same day your story is in Nairobi. But before, it could take a long time for that story to be published because of technological barriers. And these two examples are different in the distance from story to office, but both describe an important impact of telecommunications on journalism. So you can imagine how happy people were then that by just a phone call, my story is in Nairobi and it's being published. News could travel faster than people. Of course, traveling from, let's say, our place of an example we had picked in Budalangi, it will take you at least 8 hours. But with a phone call, it's a matter of minutes and your story is ready to be published. So this allowed global aggregation of information in a timely manner. And we will go back to citizen journalism, which we had briefly introduced earlier. And we talked that technology has really aided the birth of citizen journalism, because without technology then we depended on KBC radio, whereby listening to 7 p.m. news in the evening was some form of let's say cultural event, whereby people would gather where a radio was and listen to news at 7 p.m. That is technology, and it has moved to the extent that now you can listen to a radio on phone. That is technology. So with organized journalism, this is the birth of citizen journalism. There was a technology that enabled citizen journalism to merge as a realistic model for journalism, and this was the internet. So with the introduction of the internet into our sphere, so much came about, and citizen journalism is one of them. It overcame the cost and distribution problems that a very small publication faced and gave people a medium to get their content published. Because now you no longer wait for the standard to be printed the following day or the nation. Via your phone, you can have the content that is to be be aired tomorrow, today. So internet has really helped a great deal in facilitating citizen journalism. Now, this is where we talked about, and Wanjiko tried to elaborate. Does lack of experience matter to citizen journalists? Some argue that citizen journalism is of limited value due to the lack of professionalism displayed. So indeed, in journalism, you cannot bar someone to write anything on his own account, be it Facebook, be it Instagram, be it Twitter, and you have seen it happening even before. I can give an example. Even parliamentary group that was held at State House for Jubilee Party the other day, you could see members of the same party who are not happy with the move communicating what will happen tomorrow. You see, they are in their own right to use their own account to communicate what will happen tomorrow. But some information was not true, because some had predicted the ouster of the majority leader, Aden Duale, which did not come. Some had communicated some things that would happen, which did not happen. So one thing that we agree is they have the platform, but what they are putting through the platform might not be authentic, might not be verified. So some argue that citizen journalism is of limited value due to lack of professionalism displayed. So someone might have taken the content put up on their platforms and moved out with it, but to some extent, it was not true. And that shows you that indeed these people lack journalism aspects in what they do. Because as a journalist, when you hear of something, as Wanjiko said, you need to be objective. Reach out to the other party. Is this true, what I'm hearing? He or she will tell you, no, it is not true. So even if you have the information, you will put it, but say it is disputed, it is not true from the other end. Or he or she will confirm the Honorable Duale will be ousted tomorrow. So you get it from an authority, and you are sure that indeed what you are writing is verified. And come that day, what you had communicated will come to pass. So, but journalists in organized publications do not have to have a media-related degree. And in fact, the many skills of people in citizen journalism may even be of benefit. Indeed, writing, as traditional as it is, brings out the aspects of journalism, because you are writing with the purpose of maybe informing, educating, some entertainment. But at the end of the day, writing has to have a purpose, and the purpose now describes the term journalism, because it needs to have that purpose of informing, educating, or trying to pass across some sort of information or some sort of communication. So dependent upon the type of journalism attempted, it is perfectly the individual trying to cover, let's say, legal news, they find himself disadvantaged in a very, very fast manner, because he or she may lack uh, the experience to try and canvass some information, depending on what he or she wants to extract from a given story. That's why they said to cover legal news, you get some court reporters will tell you it is difficult to cover court proceedings, because you misreport a bit, and indeed you are in trouble, because this is a matter that is before court. So you cannot prosecute something that is in court and bring it to the public. It's right, but you have seen so many people being accused or arraigned in court for failing to adhere to some simple rules of verification and appropriate reporting to avoid defamation, to avoid libel. These are basic principles in journalism, whereby before you report anything that is before court, you really need to have your facts right. So some people will write, but again, they will lack the journalistic skills. They have the tools. Your mobile phone is a good tool for communication, but again, if you don't have the requisite requirements to communicate, indeed, it puts you in a very awkward position, because now you'll have communicated something that is wrong, you'll have communicated something that is unverified, you will have communicated something that will raise controversy. So as a citizen journalist, it is important that there are so many out there by the fact that they are holding a phone. But the most important thing is, indeed, if you want to use your phone as a communication tool with your account, that is why we are told that the world is moving towards the digital era, whereby we will have so many journalists. But the most important thing and the best thing to do is to have a basic training in journalism, to have all those things we are talking about. And the institutions are out there that are offering courses that will aid you in becoming a good journalist, in as far as you might be a lawyer, in as far as you might be a medical doctor, in as far as you might be a politician, in as far as you might be a businessman. But any training in journalism will help you if you want to be, let's say, a blogger, and professionalism will really come your way, and you will find some bloggers have really earned respect, because one will tell you, if it's that one who has tweeted, that is true. You see, because you have earned respect, and you have earned that confidence to the people that what you communicate really might be true. Some others, you will hear some people say, if it is that one, huyo achana na yeye, huyo tushamjua ni mtu wa kueneza propaganda. So as a journalist, it is important to communicate information that you can really prove, not hearsay. So copyright is another problem that bloggers can find themselves encountering due to general ignorance of the law, which is obviously no defense in the eyes of the law. And without relevant training, now here is where we are talking about, without relevant training, one can encounter legal issues in that respect. Copyright is a large issue, as it is a syndication and a networked structure stretching fair use and fair dealings laws to their right is a key issue. And you have seen some people who have lanes by flouting copyright issues, and you have seen them facing the law because of breaking some simple rules that you can be able to evade if you had proper training in journalism. Because you might have your own blog, you might have your own Facebook account, but whatever you write there is of key interest because it goes out to the public. So as an individual who is responsible or who wants to practice some sort of journalism, it is quite important that you have some requisite form of training to allow you practice, because some people practice it for fun, but indeed it's important to have some sort of training even as you operate your Facebook account. Write information that can be verified, write information that can be consumed, write information that anyone can trust then that you put up on a Facebook account. Some people use their Facebook accounts to write. Some even use fake Facebook accounts so that they cannot be caught by writing information that is not factual, information that is aimed at tainting someone's character. And you see it now goes against the simple rule of journalism. So it is quite important to have some sort of training before you even manage your own account. However, this is unlikely, as it will have to be an organization with some prestige in the field of journalism already, and the quiet conflict between citizen and traditional journalism will prevent this from happening. So traditional journalism, you will get that. So very few people would enter the industry and get proper training. But now, with the availability of technology, mobile phones, tablets, so many journalists without even training, and so many of them use the profession even to become conmen. I think the other day, two gentlemen and a lady around conning people in the name of being journalists. Yes, they have acquired cameras, and nowadays you can acquire a very simple camera and you call yourself a journalist. Kitambo, it will be very difficult for anyone to own a camera. For cameras will go as high as 800,000, 1 million, 2 million. But now with 100,000, you have a gadget you can call a camera, and out you go to try and find some sort of news, try and problem. Even with the technology, it is assisting us, yes, but again, it has become, I can call it a pandemic, because people are using the industry to con others who may need. Wanchiko, you have anything you can add on what we have talked about citizen journalism?
I'll just talk about the importance of the bit that you said about training, because even when it comes to not just writing, but because I've worked a lot in broadcast journalism, you'll find, I'll use the example of the sports industry. We have all these great players, they play for years, they win tournaments, trophies and rings and all these things. And when it comes to time to retire, they have several avenues that they can explore. Some going to coaching on the technical bench, but a lot of them naturally gravitate into sports presenting and sports commentating. And this is not just in Kenya, where we see former players, being on panels on TV. It's all around the world, in South Africa, in Nigeria, in the States. But they do receive some form of training, how to dress for the camera, how to speak to the camera, how to use microphones, and all these things. You don't just transition from the pitch or from the basketball court into the studio. There's a process and there's some training that goes into it. So when you are speaking about professionals, whether you're in the legal profession, the medical profession, whatever it is, wanting to write because they have the knowledge and the expertise, they still do need the training so that you can understand, how do I write this? How do I communicate this in a way that my audience is going to receive it, and to avoid, all these other bumps and problems that you have talked about, whether it's copyright or whether it is, not portraying the content in the way that it should be portrayed. So yes, training is very, very important. And nowadays there are even some online courses, short courses that can give you the basics. If you want to learn to write, if you want to learn to be on camera, to be on screen, if you want to learn to run your blog or your vlog. So I think it would be important for people to always pursue some form of training, just so that you can understand the process and how the structure works.
Thank you. So we'll talk about technology and the masses. And here we see that technology is required to create an online news site. May seem basic to us now, but these technologies have only recently come within the reach of every man. Items such as personal computers may have been available for some time, but the emergence of internet connections is the driving force here, because even what we are doing now has been guided by the internet. You can imagine talking to people the world over, because I assume there are people who are watching what you are doing now world over without us traveling. We are doing it wherever we are, and this has been assisted by the availability of internet. Cameras have become affordable, which allows individuals to own one, an example I gave. Moreover, almost every phone comes with a camera. Yeah, any sophisticated phone you buy now, it has a good camera that is of broadcast quality. Meaning wherever you find people, you will come across potential photographers. You have seen that in weddings. We have an official photographer, but when we come to a point of cutting the cake, everyone flashes out a camera in form of a phone, and we crowd the place. You remember the Dusit attack that happened some 3 or 4 years back, I think. The initial videos from the place were shared by people, you know. Most of the people recorded by the use of cameras on their phone before even the media houses arrived. And even the media houses, when they arrived, they used most of those people now that some taking good pictures that you don't even need because photos or videos that have been taken by people who don't understand videography have been captioned as amateur video, but a good videographer or photographer can take very good video using a phone. And you have seen so many videos used on television that have been taken by camera phones properly, and they pass as broadcast video. So anyone can cheaply purchase a laptop with wireless internet capabilities, a digital camera, and a mobile phone. Armed with some tools, one can create and upload digital content to a web, your own news source. We have seen that with some sites like the Magical News and some renowned bloggers who are trained journalists like Boniface Mwangi on his own Twitter account. He has been setting the pace in as far as news gathering is concerned. I even saw he posted something last night that is newsworthy, and I'm sure so many news outlets today will be guided by what he posted last night. So this kind of capability for this coast is something that is relatively recent, and its effect on citizen journalism is only now becoming clear. The main innovation is a mobile real-time coverage. We have seen international media, and even in Kenya, some media houses are picking it that with your phone, you can install an app that is connected to the server a main server in the studio, and you can go live anywhere with your phone. We have done it even here in Kenya, but so many international outlets like the CNN, BBC are using their mobile phones as tools to break news, because you might be somewhere in the CBD and an event happens. Before you alert a news team from the station to come over, it will be already long gone. So with your mobile phone, you can capture real-time happenings, and with the aid of some apps, you can be able to capture that event or happening live for our television stations. So real-time coverage of events has now become truly within our reach. At a large press event or conference, journalists will be furiously scribing away on paper. And at the end of the speech, a huge rush of hawks will be run towards payphones to phone in their stories. This is what used to happen before. So after they have written their stories, they would rush to the telephone booths to try and communicate their stories. But from here, it will be edited and eventually make its way into publication. If photos were involved, now you can imagine, if photos were involved, then the process will include even more steps, film in the dark room, and far more time consuming. You can imagine what used to happen with those traditional photographers. They would take photos. You remember the film used to consist of 36 photos or 24. So you will process, let's say, a half of it, or wait until it's full so that you can process your whole pictures. So that will take, let's say, 3 days or so to try and publish a single photo. But now, with the technology such as digital cameras, wireless internet, and long battery life on laptops, people can carry everything that they need in one bag to perform all roles of a newspaper in one. You see, in a press conference in Mombasa, will take photos, export together with their stories station, and in a matter of time, they have their stories done. So this will lead us into the internet revolution, and we have talked so much on the internet, what the internet has done to our lives as communicators, not as communicators, even as learners, as teachers. The current situation where we are in, the COVID-19 pandemic, has really hit most of our activities that require our physical interactions, and we have been put aside physically, but you will realize that so many people are together through the internet. Magoha, the station, is really encouraging students to learn via the internet. It's happening as we speak. So many students are having their lessons online. We are having our lessons online. And I think it is something that we can really look back and say it has really helped, even as we go forward, even as the country reopens. It is something that indeed we can carry it on, because it has helped students who cannot commute from wherever they are, but they are getting content via the internet. Not only is the internet helping journalists, the internet is also helping students, it's also helping lecturers try and continue with learning. And I think it's something that can really be brought on board as a very important tool of learning, because students are able to get information as far as Mombasa, Turkana. So long as they have internet, they are good to go. So the internet truly was a revolution for independent journalism. Never before could information be broadcast to so many so cheaply. You can imagine. The story of how this invention changed the dissemination of information has almost become a cliche, and its importance is often overlooked, especially by the generation now at university who don't remember a time before the internet. Yeah, at the university, the internet is everything. Your research is aided by the internet. So much that people do is aided by the internet. WhatsApp groups communicating, where are you guys communicating to a very large group of people at once, has been aided by the internet. Even now, we are being aided by the internet to go through the impact of the same technology that we are talking about. However, it cannot be stressed enough how much it has changed the landscape of available information and the speed with which we have access to that information. When something happens like now, the information spreads fast because of the internet. Let's say a good example is the death of former South African president, which happened at 2 a.m. But before we could even wake up, the information had really spread far and wide via the internet. That is what I can remember because it happened late into the night. It was around 2 a.m., 2 to 3 a.m. And by the time people woke up, the internet was full with the information of the death of former South African President Nelson Mandela. So it has given birth to a whole new branch of media, just as the invention of the printing press led to newspapers, and the television broadcast system led to a range of video format programs. Like the previous technologies, it has gone through much change since inception. That is the internet. So in the context of journalism, at least it is easiest to think of it as being separated into two distinct ages. So that is where the internet has taken us to. Digital photography. Or Wanjiku, you have something on the internet? Yes, let me give you time to try and share with us what the internet has done. Yeah.
Well, for me, I guess I can only share my own experience because, like you said, yes, we are teaching online, and it's a new experience, for some faculty, some students, and it's coming together well. But I'm also a student online, so when I'm done the faculty, I transform into being a student, and it's something the internet has really helped in the fact that my classmates and my teammates are from all over the world. I have teammates from Tel Aviv, from Saudi Arabia, from New Zealand. So the fact that we're all able to gather together on a forum like this, a meeting forum like Zoom, we have WhatsApp groups where we can update each other on team assignments and ask questions and just check in on each other, because we are all experiencing this COVID situation as well. It's been a really good experience. So the internet, we cannot understate. We cannot talk enough about how much it has opened up the rest of the world, at least for me, in my experience, that I'm able to log on and talk to my classmate from France, and we discuss and we do an assignment together in real time, submit it, those kinds of things. So it's very important. We will not stop stating the impact. So when it comes to being able to relay things in real life, even if you look at the situation in America, it happened because it came to light because there was a video that came that was shot, and it was uploaded onto Twitter, and everybody saw what happened, and we also saw it on this side of the world. People in New Zealand have seen it, people in Syria have seen it. So it's been able to make us one global village and make the world feel smaller, so that it's not something that's just this vast place that things are happening on that side, but when the news is brought to you through your timeline and through your phone, then the world becomes a bit smaller. Yep.
Yes, the world has become really smaller with the help of the internet, and as you rightly put it, you can have assignments, you can chat with your fellow students from far and wide. Even in the industry, the journalism industry, the videos that you've been seeing, no one has traveled to China, no one has traveled to the US, no one has traveled to India. These are journalists who are getting the videos from there and trying to send via the internet to media houses in Kenya, so that the media in Kenya can broadcast what is happening in the US. You can imagine now sending a crew from Kenya to the US. There are no flights, but with the help of the internet, we are able to get news from the US. Those Kenyans who are locked up in China were guided on how to get the videos and send media houses via WhatsApp. So the whole technology of the internet and smartphones has really transformed the industry, and you can see the changes that are happening. In a second, you can send what is happening in America, and in Kenya, we can clearly see the demonstrations in America that have just happened some few seconds away. And if you said that we need to send people to go and cover the demonstrations in America, it will take you 2 days to land in America and to start working. And you see now that is the help of the internet. It has really transformed the world. Yes, physically you are apart, but via the internet, people are together. Even as we talk here, we are some kilometers apart, but someone will think that we are in one room. That is the internet. So digital photography, I think we talked about this when we were talking about the processing. Kitambo, people used to go with that film camera. You take your pictures up to 36 so that you can come back to the dark room, process the same. Some tulikuwa tunasema zimechomeka because you could not monitor your exposure, you could not monitor your focus, you could not monitor. So most of the things that were being done that time ni kama ilikuwa kubahatisha, because you don't have a preview of what you have taken. Wewe ulikuwa sure ukipiga hiyo imeenda, it has counted. Ukipiga hiyo imeenda. So out of 36 pictures in a film, you could get umepata 3, because the other one maybe they are defocused, the other one zimechomeka. So with the technology, I think we have an advantage, because ukipiga picha uone iko mbaya, you can delete it from your card, and that space you use it to get another well-composed photograph. So the emergence of cheap digital cameras has also changed the internet greatly. And in these days of the web, most photos were taken with an analog camera. That is before. The film processed and the photograph scanned. So you can imagine, even with that, you have to process the film first to give you a picture in form of a paper, so that you can scan the photograph so that you can upload it. Due to bandwidth limitations, which are all but gone now, the photographs will also be lowered to a very grainy resolution. So if you lower the resolution, it becomes grainy and the picture distorts. So before you upload, this was all done to reduce the size of the picture. Remember, you have to take the picture from a film, process it, from processing, print it. Then after you've printed, you scan it. After you have scanned your picture, it's when you can upload it. But now, because it was a scanned photo, was big in size, you need to reduce the size by reducing the resolution. So by reducing the resolution, you lower its quality. So that is where you have come from. This process took several hours. The process of processing the picture itself. Uh, you have to go through in the dark room to process the film, because if you expose it to the light, that is where we used to say picha imechomeka. You expose the film to the light, and you expose the whole film, you don't have a photo, so you start all over again. So it was a tedious job and very, very time consuming. So this process took several hours. Even in the most efficient and hurried system, the landscape is very different now. Very different, with the digital cameras being so cheap, that they are bundled as an extra or virtually on every mobile phone. Every mobile phone sold now, a good mobile phone will always have a, 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 a camera. So with the digital cameras, it is possible to upload images and place them on the internet in a matter of seconds. With mobile phone devices, it is possible to send them automatically to a website. It's a process called moblogging. So texts can also be included, allowing a small handheld device to create news content. With your phone, you have a whole newsroom, but what we are sticking to is the need and the importance of training to give you some guidance in journalism. So all this we have talked about, and with the introduction of the internet, the mainstream media is declining, and indeed we have seen some major mainstream media houses trying to transform themselves to fit into the technological approach of the technology that we are having today. Many media houses, you can get them live on YouTube. If you wanted to watch news at 12 now, you don't need to go back at home to sit down and watch your television set. You can watch what is going on the YouTube channels. Those are the changes that are taking place in the mainstream media. Some are even coming up with apps like the View Sasa, so that some information you can get it there, even as we try and transform the industry, because the phone now is everything. On your phone, you can do anything you need and you want. You have the freedom. Kuna kusumbuana kwa simu ati songa nione ni yako. You can sit and watch what you want at whatever time you want. That is the shift that we are really moving away from the traditional television, as you may call it. And indeed, the television technology has really enabled journalism to move even to the extent that we are today. And so much is changing in the industry, convergence, whereby in training, we used to have, in the traditional film production, we used to have a set of crew members, which will include sound person, camera person, we would include video editors. But in news and journalism now, so much is changing that indeed, yes, you will be trained as a sound person, you will be trained as a video editor, you will be trained as a camera person, you will be trained as a script writer. But in modern journalism, they are converging to a point of having a multi-journalist. A journalist who can write, a journalist who can shoot, a journalist who can edit, a journalist who can voice, so that you can compete with what is happening now. Because you can imagine having to go on a news location with someone listening to your audio and making corrections to it. So even before you finish, the press conference is over. So so many people, as an individual, you need to learn all these things. So don't say that I'm going to ADMI to learn camera work. You need to have skills in camera work. You need to have skills in sound. You need to have skills in writing. You need to have skills in video editing as an individual, so that when you come out as a multi-journalist. You can do everything as an individual and not depending on someone else, because times have changed. You don't have that time. Within a matter of 1 hour, you are supposed to deliver your story to be part of the bulletin. So you can imagine if you tag along with a whole line of people, you'll waste time, we will waste resources, because media houses are cutting on they are cutting on expenditure now. So if you have an advantage that you can do everything as an individual, you are a plus to your organization. So as a student, the advice will be, if you go to a media or an institution, you should ensure that you go through all those units or topics or subjects as an individual. Don't say that I'm going to a media institution to train as a camera person, or to train as a reporter, or to train as a script writer. That time, I think, has been overtaken by events in the technology as we speak. So I think I've covered so much that has changed in the industry and the impact it has had, both negative and positive. The positive is that you can communicate to the whole world wherever you are, and the negative is that many people are using the internet wrongly, posting things that are not verified, and hence misleading the public. Thank you so much.
Steven,
Yeah.
there's a question here that says, thank you for the presentations, and I'm joining you from Uganda. Welcome. And
Yeah.
I run a Young African Journalism Association. My question is, a lot of young journalists face the challenge in sourcing news with a mobile phone because our societies think a phone is not professional. What is your take on that?
My take is very simple. It's because of the people who have infiltrated the journalism industry, who are not trained, who most of them we call quacks, using their phones. They produce content that is not verified. They produce content that cannot hold any water. So indeed, it's a challenge that has cropped up, but I have done stories using my phone before. The only challenging thing is convincing the people that I'm really doing it for the good of the society. But the young journalists don't give up. I think it is a quality that you need to have as a journalist. You should not give up. Have that fighting spirit, and for sure, you will be able to prove to the people that with your phone, you can produce a story. There are so many quirks, even in the medical industry, even in law. We have seen fake lawyers, we have seen fake doctors, we have fake journalists as well. So it is your work that will distinguish you from all of them. So with your phone and with your aggression as a trained journalist, I think you'll be able to overcome the so many thoughts of people out there. Because even before, we used to have big cameras, the Betacams, the DSR cameras. They used to be huge cameras. They have shrunk to very small cameras we are using now. There is a Sony camera PX WX70. It's a very small camera, but its quality is amazing. You can't even compare it with what Betacam used to produce. So the idea that you are having a big camera, you are a journalist, is really fading out, And it's a matter of time before they understand that indeed your phone carries a camera that can produce information.
Okay, thank you. And what about the outlets or the people who want to be fast with the news, regardless of the outcome? You know, if there's an accident, they're the first ones to publish the victims' names. And, you know, sometimes the families have not been told. Families learn this tragic news on social media or these online platforms. What's your opinion about that?
It's unfortunate because, as I said, any untrained person will be the very first one to start and rush to be the first one to post an event. But a trained person will have that time to call the family and find out if indeed this thing has happened. And you see, the family will give you the authority or the permission and tells you, yes, indeed, it has happened. And that is the point you can publish your story, because some people, even media houses, mainstream media houses, rush for that. They want to be the first to publish, but the ethics will always guide you. That indeed you might be late, but with factual information, but you might be fast with the wrong information. So which side will you want to lean on? I will lean on the side that, yes, I will take a bit of some time to try and check if this information is authentic, and then I'll be able to go. If I'll be the first one with that, well and good. If I'll be the second, well and good, but I'll have communicated a true story, a true information, rather than relying on hearsay and you want to be the first one. Some people have published wrong stories, even in the mainstream media. They have published misleading information just because they did not verify, they did not ask.
Okay, thank you.
We have any other question?
Could you help with some digital applications to use?
Digital applications for digital, as in what form of digital application?
Mobile digital applications to use.
Oh, mobile digital applications. Yeah,
because I think you mentioned that there's some broadcast houses that have the app.
Yeah. Like there is a technology from Israel that has provided the live views, and you know nowadays I did not talk about it. The outside broadcasting vans are vanishing because the OB vans used to carry so much time consuming, so many people, technicians. That's what I talked about, convergence. With a live view now, you can go live from wherever you are. It's a technology. You can download the phone application. It's the LU Smart. LU Smart is a live application connected to your server in the office. You can go live wherever you are. That is an independent, I think, application apart from YouTube. It's an independent application that you can use to go live. And most media houses are acquiring and they are going live using your phone. And it's an encouragement to my brother in Uganda, or it's a sister who asked the question. It's a brother from Uganda. Yeah. It's showing you that a phone is an important tool as a journalist to you, a trained journalist, I insist. We have seen that with CNN, we have seen that with BBC, we have seen that with Al Jazeera. They are using their phones. A good phone will be able to give you a broadcast quality video.
Okay. Yes, I think we're moving into a time where everything is going to be recorded from now on, you know. Given the situation and what's happening, people are afraid. People want just to have a record of things that are happening. So even as we record and practice citizen journalism and use our platforms to upload and put this information out there, I would ask that, you know, we do it with caution, we do it with respect, we do it with ethics, and as you said earlier, it's not important to be the first one to put out the story at the cost of somebody else's maybe family, maybe their name. We want to avoid legal repercussions. So thank you very much for this forum. It's been very informative, even for me who has worked in the broadcast media. Thank you.
Very good platform that is sharing information. I think so many people are learning from what is going on, even as we go through the pandemic. I can say that we have a positive side of the pandemic. It has shown us how to use the internet to bring people together. Actually, it is my first time on Zoom, I can say, because as we are continuing on with our activities in the office, so it has been a good experience even to me. I think as a first timer, I don't know, Wanjiko, you are a regular with this. Maybe you can grade me.
No, you did well, and as long as you're comfortable. And the most important thing about being a communicator is that your message is received in the way that you intended. And I think that has been achieved. So congratulations. We hope to see you more on this platform now that you're here.
Thank you so much. I think I'll be creating more time, even as we talk issues to do with journalism and technology that is life nowadays. Thank you so much.
Okay.